Well, friends, good afternoon and welcome to this, our first session for Unlearn Week 2023. My name is Pastor Paul, for those of you I have not met before, and I have the privilege of introducing today's speaker, our 12:30 slot speaker, Nikki Lerner.
Hi.
Nikki comes to us from Columbia, Maryland.
Yes.
And I first met Nikki.
Her too.
Nikki. I don't know, it must have been probably 7 years ago.
It's been a minute.
Or so. It's been
Yeah.
a few years. I first met her as a part of the Multicultural Worship Leaders Network, and I sat under her leadership at a conference, and was immediately just attracted to her ability to be hospitable and warm and welcoming, and also just highly practical. I just take so many notes and so many things that I've just included in my own ministry. And one thing that she said is, learn one thing. Learn one thing. Learn it deeply until it becomes second nature. And then move on to the next thing. Because, when we're learning new things, we're like, there's so many things, I can't do these all. And just that one little practical advice has been so valuable to me over the years. And so in recent years, Nikki has has done the work of being a culture coach, which has been a really significant work in working with institutions around the country, working with executive coaches, and helping them in multicultural environments to be a leader. And there's different ways in which you might lead in a monocultural context to a multicultural context. And so she does coaching work. She also has a fantastic podcast called The Culture Coach. If you want to find an example of very practical resources, go right there. I was just listening to a recent one this past week, and the first example was, say hello. I was like, really? I'm like, that's it. Say hello. And I'm like,
That's right.
Yep.
That's why they pay me the big bucks, Paul.
Very practical.
Say hello.
Yep. And so I've just really appreciated Nikki over the years, the times that we've had to work together here at Calvin for the Calvin Symposium on Worship, and then other interactions we've had. I brought students to the Multicultural Worship Leaders Network conference that she's had in the past, and she's just been a real blessing to me. And I also want to say that this session and her presence here is sponsored by the Calvin Institute of Christian Worship. So a deep thanks to them. So without further introduction, Nikki Lerner.
Thanks. Hi. Thanks, Paul. I need you to just travel with me and just follow me around, do all my intros. That's the best intro ever. Thanks. And it's actually really nice to hear somebody reflect back what they've heard. I don't always get that. I know it hits and I know some stuff lands, but you don't always have somebody to come back. That sounds biblical, doesn't it? You don't always have somebody to come back and say, this is the thing that, really meant something to me. So thanks. That's a real gift for me today. So I'm Nikki. A couple things to know about me I didn't have time to share this morning. Hey y'all, come on, you were right on time. You get to sit up in the front row. Or somewhere rather. How you doing? I'm Nikki. With Russell, nice to meet you. Yeah. Hey Jay, come on in. One of the things that I didn't get to share, or a few things you should know about me. One, I'm very tall. That is what it is. And you're lucky, I'm in flats today, so you're wrong about 4 inches higher than this. But I was very tall. I'm married to David. We hit 24 years. I know, you're like, how old are you? It's a skin, y'all. You can laugh, it's okay. Because it's funny. So we've been married 24 years. My husband is white American and a drummer. He's awesome. And I'll tell you about this later if it comes up, but we had a new layer in our relationship, I think, during 2020 on how we processed some stuff going on in the world. And, being married so long, I realized, I had this epiphany that, we usually teach that being colorblind is bad, right? But I realized that the only The only place in my life, hey y'all, the only place, come on in. The only place in my life that I realized I was colorblind was in my home. Like it kind of messed with my mind, if I'm honest, because like I don't sit around thinking about, oh, here I am with my white husband, watching TV and he's sitting next to my white husband, you just don't think like that, right? So that was, it was weird, if I'm honest, that realization. And then I'll never forget when my husband got some books, like around April 2020, and this book showed up at our house called White Fragility. Mm-hmm. And he opened this up and I was like, what you need that for? You're married to me, like we're good. I was offended, quite frankly, I was like, what do you need that for? But then I never forget, and again, we've been married for 24 years, and he said, you know what, I just always need to keep checking my heart. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was like, but that was big because again, see my husband is this fully reconciled man, and I don't know what it's like to be a white man in America. And just to know that even for him, he just always wanted to keep learning and staying open and not assuming anything. I think it was powerful for us as a couple, quite frankly, and a new dimension for us. So I don't know why I told you that, but take that with you. So there's that. My ministry life was, I was in pastoral ministry for about 20 years in a intentionally multicultural church. I led the creative arts department and I led most of the worship there. Church was about 5,000 people by the time I left and about 52 different nations represented, which is really awesome. Like really awesome. Probably about 15, 16 different languages spoken, just really cool. It was intentionally planted that way from the beginning, that this church would be one where there was, honestly, the vision is that there's no cultural majority. That was really the big vision. Hasn't gotten there yet, but that's the big vision, right? Where you walk in and you're like, I don't know who's running this place, kind of thing. Felt like a good thing. For us as leaders. That's what we were going towards. So I did that. I have seen just about everything when it comes to people in the same space trying to learn how to exist together. Come on in, y'all. You can sit right up front. You are in luck. Come on in. Hi. Come on in. So I've seen just about everything. I've tried just about everything. A good bit of it worked. Some of it, I'm like, not doing that anymore. So I've seen a lot. Everything I tell you today, I have done, or I have failed at. One of the two. So I'll tell you, don't do this. I'm a practitioner. I'm not a person who picked up a book and thought, oh, this would be really cool to teach. I've done it, and I'm still doing it. So just like you, I'm a practitioner and trying to figure it out. The reason I called this, I actually had to look at the title again, because when I sent it to Paul, I was like, this sounds cool. I got the content, like I don't know what it's called. So I call it today, More Practice, Less Thinking. How to build multicultural organizations, companies, and faith communities. And the reason I said those three different things is because I built a faith community. And the work I do right now, probably about 80% of my clients are not faith-based people. A lot of business, a lot of business work, a lot of non-faith involvement. My clients span from global humanitarian organizations, one of which is a faith-based organization, but they respond to earthquakes and floods and everything around the world. One of my clients is a professional sports team in Chicago, which is really fun, and about to sign another one. So I'm really excited about that. My friend says, you have Chicago on lockdown. We'll see. But that's been really fun to work in professional sports, which has been cool. One of my clients is a construction firm. Most of my clients are white American men who own stuff that are trying to figure out how to be better, honestly. I don't work with people who are resistant, just so you know. That's for any of you that even want to start to get either into this work or into any kind of work. You have to know who your people are and who they're not. I had a leader once mine, he owned a, I don't remember what, it was a while ago, but I don't remember what he owned, but it doesn't matter. He said to me, so how would you show up to our board of directors? You know, and he described them as crunchy old white guys. So, you know, how would you show up to them and help them know how important this work is? And I said, well, I can't. And I don't. I can't do that. Like, I can't make somebody care about this. And neither can you, quite frankly. I mean, you may want to do that work, and that's fine, but I'll give you 5 years. And that's generous. If you want to be in the work of trying to convince people. For me, I don't work with people I have to convince. I work with people who are saying, okay, I know I want to do something. I don't know what that is. And if I'm honest with you, I'm scared. Can you help me do better? Yes. I can work with that. Right? I can always work with that. So those are the kinds of people that I work with. People who are trying to get it. The most interesting thing I've learned over the years, because I've been doing this cross-cultural work for a really long time, is that it doesn't matter if you are in a local church, if you are running a professional sports team, or you are a global humanitarian organization, particularly if your gathering of people has historically been monocultural, most people have the same problems. But it's amazing, actually. It's the same problems, particularly when it comes to building multicultural organizations. Some of the same problems. Again, particularly if it has been historically monocultural, okay? Now, when I say monocultural, I mean any kind of monoculture, okay? Usually I have found that some of the most challenging spaces, or if your space has been historically monoculturally white American, it can be challenging, and it can be just as challenging yet different if your organization has been historically African American. They both have different challenges, very different, but they're still challenges. Now, what I have found is that there are a bunch of people in the middle. They have their own sense of challenges, right? But usually where it can be the trickiest is over here at the ends of the spectrum, right? So I'm gonna boil down these things to 3 things today. I could give you a list of 25. 25 things you need to build an organization. But the 3 I wanna talk about today, I think might be the most helpful for you, okay? Before we get into it, just a couple of things. There's a very good chance you're going to leave today and you're going to feel like, oh, but we didn't talk about, yes, it's going to happen. So let me just acknowledge that, yes, it's impossible to get into everything in an hour, okay? But hopefully it'll help you think about other things, new things, and dive in a little bit deeper, okay? The second thing is, anytime we talk about cross-cultural anything, in a room like this, can we just decide with each other that we can ask questions without feeling judged? Okay, now, if you're in the room and I have high respect for you and you're like, I don't know if I can do that, that's cool. You don't have to hang around. But we can't learn if we can't ask questions. And what I don't want anytime we talk about this is to feel like, oh, this question's dumb, or I'm gonna offend somebody in the room if I just ask this question. Anything that is honoring and curious, can we just give each other space for that? Is that cool? Just wave at me or nod at me. Okay, cool. Yeah, even if after this you're like, I'm done. Go back out there and just do what you want. But at least for the time we're together, let's just learn together, okay? That's what I would ask. And you also need to know that if something does get weird, I will throw the flag. I am tall. But I won't let anybody harass you, and I will not let you harass anybody. Okay? Always got to just set those ground rules every time we're talking about this. All right? So, before I jump into something, let me have 3 of you tell me why you came. What do you need? That's a question nobody ever wants to answer. What do you need? Or what do you want? It's the hardest question for humans. Yes.
Look at us. We're on the same
I
page.
know. Yeah. Is it Michelle?
Yes. Wow.
Michelle.
Good memory.
Yeah.
That's
Michelle and
awesome.
Zach, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
We're from
Why?
Camp Roger.
Okay.
We came because our camp is historically white, and we want to change that. We have belonging goals that we're trying to reach, and we want to reach more kids that have different socioeconomic backgrounds than historically what our campus served, and different racial backgrounds than what our campus served, and we're hoping to learn more about that today.
Okay. Great. And how would you guys define belonging in your context?
A feeling like when you walk into camp and you feel as though the space is for you and that you can be there and feel good about being there. Jump in whenever you want, Zach. I don't want to
that's
over
right.
your role.
It's
but-
kind of like the ideal of in this place with these people, I feel safe.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of along those lines where anyone who walks on the campus could see themselves, vision themselves, and be comfortable on it.
Great. Thanks. Somebody else? Why'd you come? Yeah, Marcus.
I've always found historically myself to be, as a black male, more of a bridge between my white counterparts and my blackness.
Yeah.
So I'm here to both to get informed about that gift, so to speak, and also become more equipped so that I can continue to be the gap between the two.
Good. I like that. Yeah, and let me just affirm that. Thanks for saying that, because there might be others of you in the room too where this can be a struggle, particularly for some minority cultures, not all, that when you feel like that you have been called to a space where you're a gap filler and you're a bridge and you want to help and you want to help shed some light, that there may not always be space for you where people are saying, yeah, Marcus, you should do that. A lot of times, some of us can experience, why are you doing that? So it's big, and it's kind of a taboo thing to talk about, quite frankly, in a lot of minority communities when you want to help, and if depending on the kinds of people around you, if they're like, no, you don't need to do that. Why are you doing it? We shouldn't be doing that. But I think that not everybody can be this, but there are some of us who can. And if we can, then, and particularly if there's a spiritual component to it where we feel connected and called, then we should. So that's good. Thanks for that. All right, one more person. Why'd you come? I'm just gonna call somebody white. Yes. Yes. What's your name?
Rebecca.
Hi, Rebecca.
We're here with the residents like, and particularly live-in staff in the residence schools and departments. And we're here to provide professional development, but I think we all have a goal and the department is to, similar to Camp Roger, like figure out how we can be more representative of what Calvin is. Calvin's become a lot more diverse, but sometimes the culture often almost always the culture doesn't reflect that.
Yes.
It reflects its historical culture.
Good. Thank you. What's your cultural come from, Rebecca? How would you describe it?
I'm sorry, say again.
What's your cultural come from?
Me, I'm white Zimbabwean.
Ah, beautiful. That's awesome. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, this idea of being representative, there's some language that I use, knowing the difference between when something is multicolored and when something is multicultural. They're two completely different things. You know, a lot of times we may look at our gatherings or organizations or our companies or whatever it is and say, hey, we're diverse. Look at all the people, right? But the trick is that go higher and higher up. If the higher and higher up, where people actually make decisions, become less and less diverse, you are in a multicolored environment, not a multicultural one. And how you need to think of that, don't think of it as judgment. Like if you're like, oh crap, that's us. Don't think of it as judgment. Okay, don't go there yet, all right? But what you do need to do is just think of it as information right now. Like, okay, okay. Because here's the thing, is just to explain that one layer deep, is multicolored basically means that, you just have a bunch of different kinds of people in the room. But that the people who actually make the decisions about an organization are all pretty much kind of look the same, come from the same whatever, right? Even if you have different ages. Some people try to say, well, we're diverse, we have a 25-year-old and a 65-year-old. Well, okay. Sure. You gotta start somewhere. Start there, okay? Because there is a thing of generational cultural diversity. That is very real, okay? However, when it comes to culture as it relates specifically to ethnicity, it is actually just out of alignment, if you think about it, to say we want to be multicultural and then have, your board and all of your decision makers be of Korean descent. Right? It would be like having a women's ministry at your church and saying, oh man, we got a great group of leaders for our women's ministry. Here's Bob, Dante, Justin, Caleb. Right? I'm gonna have Caleb. Never Caleb. Or Chase. Strong white names. Sorry, my husband and I. Sorry, man. It's funny. You can laugh. Because cultural things are funny. They just are. My husband and I are NASCAR fans. I know there's a whole story behind it. Like, you never watching NASCAR. My husband's from Indiana. He grew up in Elkhart, Indiana. And he always tells a story about, he's like, oh God, I gotta introduce my black girlfriend to my racing obsession. That's when they still had the Confederate flag. So anyway, everybody's name is like Chase, Caleb, Brett, or something. Anyway, this is good, strong white names. Oh my gosh, I could go on a whole tangent on that. Anyway, yeah, so just know with regards to representation, and particularly whether you're already in an environment where you're trying to change what it's been, or you're like, I'm about to start a business or a church, and I want to make sure that we start this way. You cannot have a leadership team that is monocultural and think you are going to have a multicultural organization. Look at my face. It never happens. You never trip and fall into multicultural work. Ever. Ever. You may think like, oh, I love when pastors are great at this. When pastors say, yeah, we didn't do anything. It just kind of happened. No, you did something, I swear. Even if it's just saying hello. You did something of why different kinds of people are coming here. You didn't do nothing, right? They didn't just come just because they thought, oh, you look nice. They didn't do that. You're doing something. And you have to identify what it is that you're doing. A lot of times what happens is, with churches in particular, a church will be in a neighborhood and the neighborhood will change, right? Well, some churches leave. Some churches just remain monocultural. You see a lot of that, particularly in cities. And then so let me just say that, just right off the bat. You cannot build a multicultural organization with a monocultural lead team. Not only you can't do it, you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't do it. I am at the point now where I am believing that any organization like this, that if it's not diverse, it's dangerous. And when I say dangerous, I don't mean intentionally dangerous. I don't mean like, people saying, ooh, how can we just all get together and wreak havoc on the city? It's not that. It's that whenever any of us only do things with people like us, that look like us, come from the same, whatever it is, we have a blind spot. Yeah, we don't have a blind spot if we're trying to serve people that are like us. I'm not even talking about that. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about ethnically focused work. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about if you are a leader and you are trying to build a multicultural organization, you cannot have it. You cannot have monocultural leadership. Trust me, it will bite you in the butt. It will bite you. It will come back to do that to you. So let me just say that about representation. Hey, welcome. Anybody have anything about these, just a couple of things that I just said before I share a story with you? Anybody at all? And it's okay if you want to push back, by the way. I like healthy conversation. So if you hear something like, I don't know about that, that's okay. So anybody at all? Going once? Going twice?
We're talking
Yes,
about,
Zach.
so you mentioned some of the dangers to that.
Yeah.
So what are some of the dangers?
I'll give you a few. This is not part of what I want to share with you,
Cool.
but it's meaningful. So some of the dangers of being again, let me be clear, of the desire being a multicultural organization, a multicultural business, a multicultural church, whatever it is. If that is the goal, okay, here are the dangers of being a monocultural decision-making team, okay? The first one is you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
The blind spot factor is huge. If you don't have anybody in the room of your decision makers speaking into things, this is why, you remember back in the day, when I say back in the day, some of you are like in your 20s, you're like, no, I don't remember that. I was psycho. But anyway, there was this, I know, I just turned 47 a couple weeks ago, so I'm like, back in the day. But do you remember, this still happens though all the time, when you see a brand that comes out with something and you see a picture and you're like, oh Lord, nobody told them that is offensive, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter when it came out. You're just like, Lord, that's how you know. Anytime you see something like that, you can rest assured, top, whatever the top is, all monocultural, all of them. Because nobody was to say, hey, Zach, no, don't do that. Don't do that. There's nobody to say, don't do that, and here's why. Right? There's nobody to watch your back. I mean, that's one of the most beautiful things for me about multicultural environments is like, I got somebody watch my back. You know? I mean, how many times, I love this phrase, spirit animal. How many times have I said the word spirit animal and I asked my, you may not want to use that phrase anymore, because nowadays that's like really offensive to people who actually really care about them. If I'm not in a diverse environment, I'm just out there by myself. Like, let me talk to y'all about spirit animals. You're like, no, right? It's just that kind of stuff. And that seems so small and little, but these are the things that start to build a wall over time, that the blind spot is so huge. Okay, that's a danger. A second danger, I'm just keeping it real, optics. I'll call it optics and credibility. You cannot go out there and talk about how diverse your organization is, or how multicultural you are, all the things you're doing, and still have a monocultural decision-making team, right? You can't do it. You can't talk about how you're helping the African-American community and have a board full of really awesome, well-meaning white folks.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you're not doing good work, you are. And it's just missing something. That's it. It's not about like being bad or good. It's not bad at all. But you will not gain credibility if you don't have voice in your decision-making groups. I'm telling you, I say this stuff all the time. People don't believe me. I'm telling you, don't be 6 years into building whatever it is you're building and be like, crap, we just would have put DeAndre on the board, you know? I mean, but you see what I'm saying? Like, don't do that, because you lose your credibility. Why do you think when we have racial issues in this country, nobody's calling the church? I mean, My husband and I, the church where I pastored, my husband and I found that church, it was 1998. That's when we were engaged. And we could not find a church where people looked like us as a couple. Being interracial was like so hard. Find a church. We finally found a church. It is 2023, and I think there are 2 more churches available in the country that are diverse, right? I mean, we don't have any credibility. You know when we have credibility, you know when people are calling us when George Floyd's happen in the world, it's like, oh, we need to call the church. You know why? Because that's where they figured it out. Oh, what are they doing over there? What's the church doing over there? What's that business doing over there? What's that nonprofit doing over there? They seem to have figured it out. No. Because we don't take this representation seriously. Because, you know, we're just like, well, we're good people and we're doing good work. And that's true. And there's more available to you with that. Let me stop there, Zach. Any feedback on those 2 things? Is that new learning for anybody? It's okay if it is. Like, remember, this is a learning room. Seriously, this is a learning room. Because what I find in people that I work with is a lot of, I just didn't know. So I don't make any assumptions anymore about what people know. At all. Okay. All right. Yes, what's your name?
Jody.
Have I met you before?
I've been here when you've been here before.
Okay, your face is so well, nice to see you, Jody.
Jody.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how do you know when you're ready to invite people who don't look like your historical culture into your leadership spaces in a way that you're not going to harm them in the process?
How would you define harm?
I've been part of a lot, the CRC is monocultural, right? And so I think, and I grew up in the CRC, and I've been part of a lot of spaces in the CRC where we know we need to do better. And so we're not prepared to invite people into our spaces who don't look and think the way that we're used to. And then in the process, we hurt them, and then they have to leave in order for self-preservation, and things like that. So I guess that's kind of where my question is coming from.
Yeah, that's a good question. This is part of this is actually part of the danger of having a whole monocultural team, is that nobody really knows. Like, you don't have a sense of it, because there's nobody there to say, hey, let's fix this first before we start bringing more people into this or whatever. Usually what I find, Jody, honestly, is first, you're never going to be fully ready. You're always going to feel nervous, always. So there's no right time. Time's always now. And you have to remember that hospitality is actually one of the factors when you can look at your leadership culture and be like, man, we are just hospitable. We have been working on this. When you ask other people, how would you define this? Does this feel like hospitality? That's usually a good open door that you're ready to invite people in. One of my, this literally just happened, and this is what Paul was alluding to earlier, the professional sports team that I work with. They have a lot of work to do. And the last time I was with them a couple months ago, I was there early in the morning. And because I like to get there early and just hang out and watch people come in and that kind of thing. What I noticed was people would come in and not speak to each other. You probably have environments that this happens, right? You just don't speak. And I just thought, this is so interesting. And I just watch people come in and go and, jump in the elevator. I was in an elevator with 6 people. Nobody said a word. Not even good morning. Nothing. I can tell you right now, non-white folks do not like that. Because you guys, some of you in the room, you can tell me if I'm right, right? We will take that as disrespect in a millisecond. Because from our come-froms, we are taught that is one of the highest forms of respect. It's just to speak and to acknowledge. And that's actually so powerful, because if you think about it, all of us in this room, because we're a diverse room, what we can do is speak. We may have different socioeconomic backgrounds, we may have different titles, all these things, but what we can do is say hello. And what hello does is it actually, first of all, it acknowledges the presence of another person in your midst, right? And it puts everybody on equal footing. Everybody can say hello. Everybody's got that, unless you're mute. Or you're with someone who has special needs that is not verbal or something like that. Most people can say, and even people like that wave at you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is the smallest bit of hospitality that we can do with one another. And I'll tell you this now, every single organization I work with, even churches, people do not speak to each other. They don't say hello. Like, they start Zoom meeting. You ever been on a Zoom meeting? Maybe at work or at church or whatever, and somebody opens a Zoom meeting and they're like, all right, so on the agenda tonight, we've got this and that. I'm like, Doug, say hello to me. I don't know who Doug is, but I just don't know names. Don't worry, the Lakeishas and the Quantes are coming, all right? But, you know what I'm saying? Like, Doug, say hello. Because immediately, like, that just, it keeps us from each other. So I would just say this, Jody, if you just show up to your environments as an observer and just watch. Do people speak to each other? They say hello. They say good morning. Do they stop in the middle of their work and just say, how's it going, Janie? How was the weekend? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's great. How's your nephew? Your nephew doing okay? Oh, okay. All right, good. All right, I'll see you a little later. Watch that stuff in your environment. If that stuff is not working, I wouldn't start inviting particularly non-majority folks, because I can tell you right now, that is the easiest way to be misunderstood in our communities. Am I right, guys? Am I right? Like, to be misunderstood sometimes is the lack of hello, the lack of acknowledgement, and it can be easy for people to make up a story where there isn't one necessarily. Yeah, Ms. Eva.
Piggyback off of what Jody was saying, how do you, because I'm thinking from my particular lens, well, let's say we got past the hospitality part, but let's say the dominant culture or the majority culture, how do they interact with one another or even with minority culture to where we do not feel tokenized?
Yep. Yeah,
So
great
I
question.
find that's where the difficult
Yes.
is.
Yep, this is really great. So a couple of thoughts on that. First is, you can be sure you are tokenizing someone when the reason that you invited them, or the reason that you hired them, or the reason you engage with them at all is solely based on their cultural context.
That's good.
Like, solely. Listen for language like, we need some black people around here. No, you actually don't.
Right.
You don't need some black people. Right? That sounds funny to say now, doesn't it? Just like, I asked some of you to say it, but some of you are like, no, I'm not saying that. No, I'm not going to practice that. But I mean, just think about how that feels. Like, we need some black people around here. Or we need to diversify.
Right.
Or, it'd be really good if we just had a black guy on our board. Or, man, we just need some women. Or, gosh, what we need for our brochure? A guy in a wheelchair.
Right. Right.
I know, it's cringy, isn't it? And this happens every single day. Every day, y'all. Every day. That's the kind of language you got to be aware of. Because what it does is it doesn't consider people as whole people. Because you know what I very rarely hear? What we could really use is some white people. Man, if we just had one more white woman, oh gosh, You know what we need for our leadership team? Man, we need an Italian guy. That's what we need. We need an Italian guy. Like, literally, when's the last time you heard that? Like, you know what we really need? Oh, we just need a white, gay, physically unabled person in their 20s. Like, ain't nobody got time for that. Come on, we can do better. Can't we? Maybe at some point. We'll do better at some point. But you know what I'm saying? Anytime you talk about people or refer to them that way, you are right in tokenism. Because you do not take the entire person as a whole. My least favorite thing to hear with people I work with, my clients, is, but if we diversify, what if the quality goes down? Come on, you know you've heard this. We just need to hire the best person. Like, well, yeah, you've been hiring the best person from your white American pool of people that you call the best. You've been doing this forever. So don't act like it's new when I'm like, you need to go look over here for some people, right? Like, oh, we don't want to do that. You've been doing it forever, over here. Right, but we never say, we just need a really strong white candidate. Isn't that cringy? It's cringy, isn't it, when you hear it? You hear it back. If we just have a man, like a 6-foot-tall man with a beard, that would just take our conference. What's your name?
Lopez.
What is it?
Lopez.
Lopez? Yeah, Lopez is like, finally! Finally, somebody sees me! It's my time, y'all. But like the more you say it, the more cringy it becomes, isn't it? You know, like that's the thing. That's when you always know you're in tokenism, Miss Eva, is when anything begins with, like, black women. Or, Indian people usually, or, wow, Korean people. Unless you're in a context of cultural conversation, look at people as whole people. The way that you can practice this too, and again, this is just a practice, this is strategy. When you walk around, try to describe people to somebody else that's nothing to do with the color of their skin. Or what you think their cultural come from is, right? Well, which guy is it? It's the guy with the green sweatshirt and the brown, I'm making this up, y'all. And the brown corduroy pants with the see the shoes? See them silver shoes? The guy, I know it sounds really strange, but like you're training your brain as an exercise to describe people as whole people. What if you started describing people as, the guy at work that's really kind. That guy I'm talking about, that guy that, like, remember when he did this and he did this and he did this? It's a really good strategy. I know it's more efficient to say the black guy.
Right.
It's more efficient. It's quicker. But you're not going for efficient and quicker. And I'm gonna tell you right now, if you're trying to build multicultural organizations, churches, whatever it is, efficiency is not your friend. Efficiency might kill your diversity efforts. Efficiency says, well, we found everybody from Indeed, so we should go to Indeed. Do you know that lots of non-white people are not on Indeed? Right? Just like if you went to a cookout, that's not where your white folks are gonna be. Most of them, unless they married in. But you know what I'm saying? But you get what I'm trying to say. Like, let's start trying as a practice, just for our own brains, to describe each other as whole people. And when we look at our diversity numbers, I mean, there's nothing wrong with numbers. If you count people, it's fine. This is what you do, right? But like, let's look at people as whole. Because if you've been in a monocultural environment, particularly if it's largely white American or has been white American, the people there have had the opportunity for you to see them as whole people, not white people. And so really what you have to tap into is just say, okay, the same that I give them, I need to give other people. How do I do that? Because what you're not going to always realize is that you may have been socialized that way to look at people that look like you as just kind of normal. But everybody's normal. The way we talk about diversity in this country is kind of like there's white people and ethnic people, right? If you're white, do you know that you are an ethnicity?
Right.
I mean, you're an ethnic person. Now don't go out these doors being like, I'm ethnic too! Don't do that, not yet. not yet. But here's the thing, if you are white American, once you start really embracing yourself as an ethnicity too, the conversation actually starts to change. Because then what you see in the world around us is cultural, it's not right or wrong. Because how we've been socialized is if you're white American, which is dominant culture, your culture, which is sometimes hard for you to pick out what it is, but we know. We know. So if you're curious, just ask us. But your culture is called normal. Sometimes your culture is called American, right? Your culture is a required course for those of us that are not white. Everybody else's culture is an elective. And I mean, that's just the way we're social. I don't like that that's true, y'all. You probably don't either. You're like, oh, that feels creepy. Yes, it should. But that's the water that we swim in here, right? So it's very important, particularly if you're white American, or if that's how you would call yourself or explain yourself, to not see everybody else as other or ethnic. You're ethnic too.
Right.
It's just harder for you to pinpoint your culture sometimes because you're the dominant culture. But just know we have to know your culture. We are just by nature bicultural people, right? And that's if we're African American, if we're of Asian descent, if like whatever it is, if we're a minority, we have to know your culture, right? And we can tell you what it is, for the most part. But just know this too, anytime that those of you that are majority culture in the room, that you settle for, I'm just a white person, you actually don't even give space for your own cultural heritage to come in. Some of you are connected, you have Dutch ancestry, you have German ancestry, you have all these different cultures that you too have not been able to bring in. You realize that? It's not just us, it's you too. Now we have it in a different way than you guys do, but still even that, to just be like, no, my people came from Italy, but no, we don't really talk about that. Or, yeah, we're from Polish descent, but we don't really talk about, we don't have the language. You see how that doesn't benefit you either? It doesn't benefit any of us. This idea of the sameness that we try to keep going after. It doesn't help any of us. Right. Did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, one of the things, Rasul,
Thank you.
that seemed to be a thread with the tokenism or some way looking at what's outside is there wasn't a sense of evaluation of the organization itself. And it would seem like that might be an important place to start before we start trying to change, because there's something happening internally, I would imagine, that is part of the reason why they're not seeing the diversity and the multicultural vision itself. What are some ways that we can be, become more able to see what is true organizationally that might be preventing those outcomes from existing?
That's a really good question. The first place you always have to look is who is making the decisions. Always. And this is a really good question to ask, is who's missing? I love that question. Who's missing from our decision-making teams? Who's missing? Because a lot of times that helps expand our brain a bit more than like we need some fill in the blank, right? When you say, who's missing? That can, I find, oftentimes really start you down a road. Because I'm telling you now, if you look in your decision-making teams, which then translate into power, anytime somebody can make a decision, it translates into power. No matter what it is, at what level it is. If these people are all from particularly one cultural ethnic group, you have a problem. And when I say problem, again, hear my heart. I don't mean there's anything inherently wrong with how you do business or how you do church. But what it does do is it gives you a signal that people are missing. And again, if you want to have a multicultural church or a multicultural organization, you can't do it with a monocultural decision-making team. You always have to look at that. The second thing you want to look at is your expression as an organization or as a church. Now again, if historically you have been one particular culture group, it might be a little tricky for you to identify yourself. And so if you've got some friends that you trust, that you could say, can you just come and hang out, just hang out for a couple hours and then tell me what you feel, or tell me what you see, particularly around expression, that could actually really help. So a lot of people would say, hey, we have a multicultural church. Come visit, cool. Walk in the morning and I see 14 electric guitars on stage, no keyboard. Like, that's a dead giveaway. I know exactly how this worship's gonna sound. Like, you don't have to play it. I've already heard it.
Oh,
Sweet Jesus. Over and over and over. If I hear the song Raise a Hallelujah one more time, somebody's afro is getting torn out. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's the same. It's the same. Same expression. Most of our churches, we don't have to go anymore because we know exactly what's going to happen. We show up, worship team walks out on stage, or your cantor, whatever in your context, walks out on stage, everybody stand up, cool. We sing a song that the church, 5 churches down the street are singing at the same time. Right? Like everybody needs the same song. Right? We sing for 14.2 minutes, unless you're at a black church, and we sing 45. Right? Thank you, Jesus. I sing 45, right? Everybody sits around. You may shake a hand, you may not. The announcements person comes up, gives the announcements. Then there's some video that y'all bought online that show that. And then the pastor comes up, does a 22.2 message. Unless you're at a black church, in 45 minutes, right? And everybody stands up and you pray and you leave. Some version of that, right? How do we all end up with the same expression of church? With different people in the room, right? I guarantee you that with regards to expression, if you're talking about a church, if your creative expression all sounds the same, you are not in a multicultural church. And I don't care what the culture is. If you're in a white American church and you know that the way that your worship leader goes to find songs is to go to the CCLI and pick the 5 hot songs, do you know that the CCLI is racially segregated? Do you know that? Do you know that CCLI, or the CCLI or CCM is contemporary Christian music, which really is code for white Christian music? Some of you are like, no! Yes, it's racially segregated. Remember I asked the question, who's missing? Go look on that list. Who's missing? Tell me right now who's missing. You guys know, you already know this. Who's missing from your most famous worship tunes? Women and non-white people. It's racially segregated. So if you keep going to the pool that is racially segregated, you know what you're going to keep getting? Racially segregated worship service.
Can I speak to how true that is?
Yes,
so
please.
I've been in worship ministry for about 15 years.
Yeah.
And what we do with CCM songs, we take and we add a little seasoning salt to it and some vegetable oil.
That's right.
And call it BCCM.
BCCM.
Black
Come on,
contemporary.
man. I like that. BCCM.
That is how true it is.
Y'all better steal that today. Go back to your church. You better steal that today, right?
And here
Yeah,
I
you're
am being the
absolutely
bridge.
right.
I enjoy singing it the way it was.
Sure.
Right? Because it's the words.
Yes.
But I see it differently
Yes.
than most would.
Yeah, and that's why people get frustrated, y'all. It's not that what you're offering them is awful, unless it is, and y'all can fix that. That's a whole nother workshop. Like, don't live stream if your worship team is awful. There's some stuff out there, y'all. God, I was like, is that an alto singing? But there's 7 people on the team. All I hear is the alto. Lord. Anyway, right? But people don't get frustrated because you sing like one song in it that's something a little more white culture. They don't get frustrated about that. You know what they do get frustrated over? 9 months of the same genre
You got you.
over and over and over without any kind of genre change, without any kind of language change, without any kind of style of expression. Like, you sing the song just like it was recorded and then you move on. We don't do that. We sing the song, sing it, pause, talk about things, sing it some more. It's a 10-minute song, right? Like, these are the things that frustrate people. You know what else frustrates people? Here's the other thing you can look at, is you keep asking people what they want. They tell you, and you never do anything about it.
Say that.
You guys, you know what I tell this for my business clients? I tell them, stop doing employee engagement surveys. My God. You know why? Because we do them every single year, right? And they ask you, how we doing? And you tell them. And then the next year, they say, how we doing? And you know what you tell them? The same thing you told them last year, because they didn't do anything about it. I mean, am I alone in this? Like, you guys have taken these surveys, right? That's the thing that exhausts people, particularly culturally. Here's what happened in 2020, okay? In 2020, you know, a lot of minority folks in this country were very unsure if they wanted to open back up again after all that. Man, was that hard. I mean, what I do see about 2020, George Floyd, is I felt like for about 2 weeks in America, we had a collective culture experience together where we all agreed, man, that's awful. This should not happen to a human being, period, ever, okay? And then we went back in our corners and started dissecting it, and that's where we started to lose our way. But, you know, a lot of minority culture folks, some people just completely shut down. Like, don't ask me anything ever again. I'm done. Right? That's a lot of people. Then there were other people that said, I'm mad, but I'm gonna tell you what you need to know, because you look like you're interested again. Okay? Those are the people you gotta worry about losing. The people that said, you know what? I'm gonna try this again. I'm gonna try to tell them again. And still nothing has been done. So that's the other area you have to look at. What are the things, particularly culturally, that you have asked people what they need and what they want and what could be better, and they still haven't done anything about it? And you know why nothing's been done is because it doesn't have any impact to the people who are making the decision, because the decision makers are monocultural. And we're right back where we started, with why it's dangerous to have a monocultural decision-making team. Let me tell you this story. So, several years ago, a colleague of mine and myself, we were invited to a Christian college. I'm not gonna tell you which one it was. A Christian college, but you know it if I told you. Christian college. And they said, hey, here's what we want you to do. Come talk to our board of directors, our president, and then we want you to talk to our international students and ask them some questions. Okay. This is a global school. And I say global. You know why I say global and not multicultural? Why? Somebody tell me. Yeah, well, international folks, that's another conversation, right? The monocultural decision makers, okay? But it was global, okay? So we got there, we sat with the international group. These students were from everywhere, all around the world, right? We said, what is something that the school could do to make you feel at home safe. Like that, this is for you. And almost at the same time, there was a student from Korea and a student from Ghana. Almost said the same thing at the same time. You know what they said? They said, rice. So, of course, naturally we said, rice? That's what you want, rice? They said, yeah. And they go on. Now, ironically, we're having this meeting in the cafeteria. Okay. So one of the girls speaks up. She's like, we are surrounded by tater tots and French fries and pizza and all the carbs, and they're great. And they're great. But you know what? If we want rice, we have to come into the cafeteria, then we have to get our food, take it to our room, leave our room, walk down 2 blocks to the Asian market down the street, get our rice, walk back up the thing, up the sidewalk to our rooms, and heat everything back up just so we can have some rice. There's no rice. And we all eat rice. Staple. I'm thinking, yes, this is the easiest thing I've ever done, right? So we go back, me and my colleague, we go back, and we go, and we're like so excited, and we go up to the, where the big guys sit, right? And they're all sitting there, there's about 15 of them, and they're sitting there, white guys, 60 and over, right? And they're like, okay, what did they say? And we're like, guys. Rice. They want rice! And then this is what happened. Rice. She said, rice. They want rice. They started talking to each other. And we're sitting there like. And so then somebody emerges from their little conference and says, did they say anything else? Yes, they hate chapel worship, but who cares? You can't do anything about that. They said rice. Sorry, Paul. They said rice. They look disappointed. Oh, they're like, okay, thank you. Y'all, we were at that school 2 years ago. Do you think they have rice in the cafeteria? Really? No. No. So here's what I would say to you. Don't start building multicultural anything. Don't do this. Don't be that. And Lord, please don't start doing this if you're not willing to get rice in the cafeteria. Because it's the rice is where the breakdown is. Jane.
And here's the thing, how hard is it to get rice?
That is the question.
Right.
How hard is it to get rice? And let's just say it's really difficult. I had rice today. It didn't look difficult. But let's just say it's all the things, the suppliers and the blah, 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 and the trucks and whatever, okay? What if it is that? So the next question is, okay, well, then how else do we get rice here? Like here's the thing. This is why I call it like less talking, more doing, or whatever I call it, right? Like because sorry, Paul. Because this is the thing. It doesn't matter who I work with, organizations, churches, big companies, sports teams. You know what their problem is? Overthink. It's what it is. I'm telling you right now, it's overthink, and overthink is just a fancy word for fear. That's it. It's overthink. It's telling you that we want rights, and you being like, No, you know what you really need? We need an internship program for students from, well, yeah, that's a great idea, but do the rice first. Do that first. The right things in the right order. Do the rice first. Fix the hospitality first. Have people say hello first, right? Go join Go join organizations that harness Black talent. Here's something. Go visit a Black church. Because you know what I don't see in Black churches? White people. Yep. I'm keeping it real with y'all here, okay? Because here's the thing. For the last minimum 3 years, people have been very, very open and very, very aware. How do we create community? How do we find people? How do we find, and you know what people are unwilling to do? You know what the rice is? People are unwilling to go and learn from Black churches. Because I'm telling you, I mean, every church has its quirks and issues. But man, some of those small churches with a bunch of Black folks in them, they got community down, y'all. They got community down. Korean churches, same thing. You know who else I don't see at Korean churches? White people. You know who I see at white churches? Everybody else. But here's the question. It's not about bad or right or wrong or good. It's will you address the rice? Will you be faithful in the small? It's what we talked about this morning at chapel. Will you see what you have and start there? Because a lot of times we can talk ourselves out and overthink ourselves out of diversity work because we think it is huge, so big, it's so big. Well, yeah, it's big. Everything's big. Everything's hard. And start with the first step. That's it. But you have to be willing to do rice. If you're not willing to do rice, don't do it. Like literally, you would actually be less harmful, Jody. You would be less harmful if if the people in your organization or your church are not willing to do rice. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Because you're gonna end up hurting people in the process. People are gonna feel tokenized. People are gonna feel that if we're not willing to say, okay, the way we've been operating worked in a monocultural environment. Some of those things will transfer, but a lot of them don't. What is the new way of being?
I love your analogy, and thanks for being here again. You've obviously spent some time in West Michigan because you're talking about some of the issues that we face.
It's everywhere.
And I have the opportunity to see both campus work as well as the faith community as a pastor of the church. Rice. If we allow them to have rice, then they'll want curry.
Yeah.
And if we allow them to have curry, then they will have to have jollof. And then if they have jollof, then they're going to want jambalaya.
And my God, they're on a basketball team.
Do you understand?
Jollof leads to basketball.
Right. So address the fear. You said that, you mentioned fear, but address the fear that it's okay to allow rice and curry and jollof and all of those things in those spaces, both educationally as well as faith-based. One of the other challenges, the caveat is a Black church, which, by the way, I'm Black. The church is like a tan brown brick building.
Yeah.
But
that's right. There's no such thing as a Black church.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there's a fear there in West Michigan. It's like, oh, well, if I come and I'm white, will I be accepted? And then there are layers to the cross-sectionality.
Yeah, welcome to the minority experience.
Oh, right. Black and Pentecostal.
You'll be fine.
And Baptist.
Yeah, like you're not going to die.
So
and right, like, so what? So what? So you're a white person, you show up at a Black church, people are like, what you doing here? Like, so what? Who cares? Like, literally, y'all, who cares? Who cares if you walk out there and be like, I didn't feel accepted? So what? You carry on with your life and you try something else. So you don't go back to that church. Go to another one where those people aren't there. You got a whole nother, there's several churches you can go to. Who cares? You're not gonna die. And here's the thing, it sounds funny, right? And I'm saying it in a way to make you laugh because I don't want you to cry. But here's the thing, is that it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. And the way that we can look at things is, number one, discomfort is okay. Discomfort's fine. We overthink because we think we're going to die. I mean, die is a big word, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to feel that. How am I gonna? Yes, you have to experience that because I've never met one person who has done anything meaningful cross-culturally without discomfort.
That's right. That's right.
Can I say
And
that?
yes, and there are many of us who do it all the time. Yes, ma'am.
Can I say that that's our life every day?
Yes,
We don't
Yeah.
have a choice
that's right.
to not show up and be uncomfortable
Yeah.
or have to talk about, I don't know, the friend's actor who died, but really
Yeah,
there was a living single reunion on.
right.
You know what I mean? Like there are
Yeah.
things that like you said, we have to know other cultures.
Yes.
We don't necessarily have to know about
Mhm.
ours, so we have to be uncomfortable, we have to learn the things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and that's the thing, and you're still here.
Okay.
You're still here. You haven't died, right? Other people here, they're fine. You guys, you're gonna be fine,
Yeah.
okay? And sometimes you just need to hear that. Like, you're gonna be okay. You're probably gonna be a little uncomfortable. You're probably gonna hear some things you might not agree with. That's okay. That's just life, right? That's okay. You don't have to agree with everything to be all right. You'll be all right, right? You're gonna hear different political ideologies as yours. That's okay. We hear that every day. Lord, every day, right? You're not gonna die. What most of us don't want to get into in culture work is we don't want to get out there and try something and have it not work. That is what's keeping us from these environments. There's literally nothing stopping us right now in 2023 for having as many multicultural churches, organizations, and business. Nothing. Do you realize that? Everything we're experiencing right now is choice. It's choice. There is nothing in our way to make the choice to have multicultural spaces. But we have to know that we are stronger than we think. We can handle more than we think. You guys have probably been through some stuff, all of you, right? I know I got that right. Y'all been through some things in your life and you are still standing and you can get through this one too. But we have to run towards instead of away. It's time. We have to get over overthink. Just try some stuff. See if it works. If you bail, do something else. If you refer to somebody in a way that they don't want to be referred to, ask them how they prefer to be referred. Like, see, we're thinking that if we make a mistake, we're gonna fall off the cliff somewhere and have to hide in a hole forever, right? That's not gonna happen. If somebody asks you, what would happen if you lost your job? What do most people say? I'd be in a cardboard box living down by the river somewhere on the street. No, you wouldn't. No, you'd find another job, or you'd go stay with some friends, or something. You're probably not gonna be out in a cardboard box out here at the college. All right, Paul would at least take you in. Maybe. Right? But that's the thing. We overthink like, oh, it's gonna be the worst thing. Oh. No, it's not. It's actually not. You're going to be fine. Stop worrying about being canceled. Stop worrying about messing up. You're going to find your way, but you have to step out and try some things. And don't try them by yourself or with your monocultural group, but go try them with a diverse group of friends. My God, please don't do diversity without diversity. It's happening everywhere. Okay? Okay, we are way over time. Here's the thing. I'm gonna respect your time, so if you have to leave, go ahead and leave. But if you wanna hang out here with me and keep talking, I'm gonna keep talking. So, does that sound good? Here's the thing. If you do have to leave, or you just want to leave, you're like, I need to get up out of here. If you want to leave, check out NikkiLerner.com. That's everything I'm up to in the world, where you can find this. And you can check out the Culture Coaching Lab online, which is some online self-paced masterclass type stuff that you can check out, that you can use whether for yourself or for your team. But drop me a line somewhere. Like you can, if you email me that on that page, it goes right to me. But that's where you can keep up with where I am. So officially you're dismissed. No judgment. Thank you for being with me. But if you want to stay, I'm gonna stay around. I'm gonna hang around. Sound good? Okay. Let's give like 30 seconds for those of you that have to leave. Go ahead and leave. Like that's probably everybody.
Thank you, guys.